Hello and welcome back to Game 2, Burning Core versus the Hawks. And this one is going to be a bit of an interesting game. This battle is basically who is going to take the top of the middle, Admittedly, we would have expected this to be over the 4th place. Right now, though, it is a competition over the 3rd place spot, which is massive for both of these teams. Let's get into predictions to start this one off. Just blindly. RMC,
Okay.
who you got in this game?
Oh, that's kind of spicy. My heart's saying Burning Core, my head's saying Hawks right now. So, you know what? I'm the color of this desk. I'll go with my head for today. I'll go with the SoftBank Hawks.
That
What
that,
about
that
you,
has me
Stormy?
concerned because I'm like feeling the exact opposite, right? Like my head is saying
Oh,
Burning Core, my heart
Okay.
is saying the Hawks. And here's the thing, right? Like we're talking about who's going to be like the head of that midfield. I'm an F1 fan. McLaren's my team. My heart's with them. They're awful this season, so I'm going to be going Burning Core on this one. I'm going to listen to my head. I think they're looking a bit more like Mercedes right now, and they're going to drive on through.
I personally think it's going to be the Hawks. And the reason I think it's the Hawks is because the Hawks have always stayed away from the predictions. We always predicted them X and they've gone Y. But normally that's been a bad thing. But this season, they're actually exceeding expectations. They're doing better than we had thought, which is not something we've said for a long time in the LJL. So for me, I feel like Hawks are soaring. They're going to make their way straight through this game. I feel like Burning Core didn't put up a good performance in the first round, but as we saw in that last game, things can change from that day to game. Now, let's talk about some interesting players for these teams. I feel like Flawless, a really big name for this side of Burning Core, but so is Blank. And if we can get the... Oh, that's not what I expected, but it's okay. Kill participation. We might need to change the graphic on that one. We'll double check. But first of all, RMC, how are you feeling about Flawless in this situation? Obviously last split, I feel like he really was kind of the keys to success. Do you feel the same way now?
Yeah, I think for Burning Core, the way they've looked, kind of what we expected, where Ray Farkey is the foundation which they build. He's often the game winner here, but at the same time, they need somebody else to push them over that finish line. And often at times, it has been Flawless or Dice. This split, I think, Flawless a little bit more than Dice thus far. So definitely do agree. Flawless absolutely massive, and I especially like the fact that we've seen Flawless actually play towards that top side a little bit. Last split, I think we saw Ray Farkey on an island doing whatever Ray Farkey had to do by himself. And then the rest of Burning Core is putting out fires left and right, or starting them in the case of some games. But this split, Flawless, going to that top side, getting Ray Farkey those early leads has shown, because Ray Farkey now has the highest goal difference at 15 of all players in the LJL here. And that lead often translates directly to success for Burning Core.
Yeah, and I think the top lane is definitely going to have big plays. The bot lane is as well. We'll get into those in a second, but I think we do have the graphic ready for the junglers. And this is the one we were talking about. So Blank versus Flawless. Flawless being such an important part of this team. Kill participation-wise, pretty high, 72%. But Blank popping off recently on things like the Poppy, stepping up 83.5%. And then we do look at the different champs that they play. Obviously, Flawless notorious for playing different champions, played 7 different champs in 8 different games. Blank has kept it solid. He's played a lot of Wukong, he's played a lot of Poppy, he's played a little bit of Viego, a little bit of Talia here, but generally the same stuff. And when we think about Flawless, we think about the damage carry that he did have in the spring. Well, he's not doing that much more damage than Blank. Formal, are you maybe like expecting more from Flawless, or are you actually saying that, Blank is popping off right now?
Yeah, see, I'm more in the latter right there. I think Flawless is playing incredibly well, but so too is Blank. And we're talking about how pivotal Flawless has been for Burning Core. I think you can double down on that for Blank as well, and how vital they have been for the SoftBank Hawks. This is a game that is going to be a bit more of a battle of the junglers than what we saw back in game 1. I feel like that's going to be the difference in this matchup. And the only thing that I can really be critical so far of Blank's game has just been the unique champion, that champion pool. It's been quite narrow so far. Granted, hasn't really need to spread it out that much, and they've been really kind of perfecting that play style, which maybe you need to do if you want to be one of these midfield teams. However, I do see that as an area that can be exploited. So I'm hoping Burning Core recognizes, okay, Blank wants to be involved, has a set of champions. Let's make Blank as uncomfortable as possible. Let's actually try and focus and target Blank and see if we can kind of beat their big shining player, because without Blank, I do kind of wonder if the Hawks are going to have that same level of success.
For sure. And, for this comparison too, I think Flawless is important, but Blank is the most important guy for the Hawks here. He's the one who's leading the charge, enabling everything else that comes after. So the fact that Flawless is even coming close to Blank, I think, says a lot. And for Blank too, I almost feel like it's a bait that he's only played a handful of champions, because we know Blank, from seasons past, he's got a massive champion pool. If you start batting things out, I think we get to see a lot of what Blank has hidden. So part of me does want the focus onto Blank from Burning Core so that we see more of Blank here. But at the same time, I don't know if that's the winning strategy necessarily for Burning Core.
I mean, it'll be fun. Who cares about winning if it's fun, right? I think we'll enjoy it, all right? It could be a little bit selfish right there. Look, I made the comparison before. Blank used to be a world champion. We can call him the Lewis Hamilton of the team. We need to figure out who George Russell is right now. That's all I'm saying.
I love this. It's just like, throw away your strategies. I just want to see Blank with a new champion. Just ban Blank out.
Yeah.
Just to see. Who cares?
I'm
about
down
the rest
for
of their team? It
RMC
doesn't
figured
matter.
out my secret plan. Like, he saw straight through that. Like, hold on. Blank obviously has a champion pool. What are you saying? You want something? I was like, yeah.
Who cares about Dash's champion pool? He's not going to carry the game for them. It's fine. It's fine. Just ban Blank out and we'll have some fun. No, I do think it's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, I will say, let's actually go to the mid laners. We're going to talk about bot lane, but Dasher versus Dice. I feel like both have actually been playing really well recently.
Yeah, they really have been.
Oh, I'm really sorry. I have thrown you to the wolves a little bit there. We are going to be going into draft. So, formal RMC, have this discussion for in pick and bans.
All right, fine. The decision becomes a lot easier and the discussion becomes a lot easier if we actually know who they're playing.
Exactly, yeah. And, speaking of Dasher and Dice, though, they both played quite a few different champions so far. I mean, it feels like the mid lane matter has been a little bit stale with, Corki priority and Ari priority being so high. And I think by extension from that Corki Ari, we've seen a lot of Lissandra as well as an answer. So Corki taken off the table. I wouldn't be surprised here, Formal, if we end up just seeing Ari and Lissandra being traded back and forth. Hold up, never mind. What if this is your first pick?
Yeah, surprise! Well, there's something different and interesting take by the Hawks. The other real quick thing, though, I want to touch on was talking about how I wanted to see Blank kind of challenged a bit. I love the Poppy and Wukong pin.
Fair enough. I mean, the 4 champions were Wukong, Poppy. Those were picked 3 times. Viego, Talia picked once each, and Hawks banned Talia themselves. So we might see the Viego come through again. It seems to be a staple oftentimes, that and Wukong being high prio here in the LJL. So we'll see. Or it might just go second phase. That's what we saw the first game today between Axis and Roscoe Justice. For now, though, Burning Core, they're just going kind of the somewhat tried and true Senna here. Yuhi's been playing supportish style champions. He's at 1 game of Fasting Senna so far and 1 game of support Ashe. And you know what? Both of them look quite good for Yuhi.
Yeah, it looks like it will be the Fasting Senna most likely paired with that Tom Kench in the bot lane. And I have mixed feels on this bot lane right now because I feel like if we look at a global meta, I don't really feel like this pick is as strong as some of the other duos. But when we look at the LJL where people struggle with aggressive champions, last week I saw this lane piloted no, sorry, it wasn't the Hawks game. It was in the first game. It's against V3. It was piloted against V3. But I still saw this lane sort of out early game the Lucian Nami. So you know what? I don't care. Go ahead, take it, Burning Core. Be aggressive with it. Gnar is going to get locked in on the opposite side.
I am baffled right now by the Hawks drafting strategy. They just picked both their solo lanes blind here. And into Burning Core of all teams. Burning Core is a team that normally plays through their top side, their solo lanes. You've given free counters over, and well, for Blank here, taking that Lee Sin, you know what? We've said it before, Blank's got a Champion Ocean. Lee Sin, something that we know he's performed on in the past, and it's also a good takeaway from Flawless. Flawless 7 unique champions, but the only champion he's played twice so far has been that Lee Sin.
Yeah, and I do feel like it has potential to be a good matchup as well into that bot lane where we see, more scaling being locked in, especially with the Gangplank going. Blank is going to beat that Catalyst, it looks like, once again for the Hawks on this Lee Sin picket. That's where that early game tempo most likely is going to be coming from. In Burning Core, they're still committing towards, more of that scaling, more of that late game. So Blank is supposed to be the big carry for the Hawks. It looks like they're going to have to prove it once again.
Yeah, we'll do for sure. And now we're into the second sort of ban phase here for the side of Burning Core. They're looking for their mid and jungle here. The Diana ban coming out, something that definitely not very meta currently, but very specific towards Flawless in spring. 2 of his best champions were the Diana and the Karth this year, so wouldn't be surprised if we saw that. And for Hawks, they're still looking to pick up their bot lane into a known Senna Tom Kench here, Formal. And when I look at Marble and Reina, I'm not sure what exactly we're expecting to see. I feel like the Tom Kench was something that Reina has been favoring heavily. So most likely, maybe something like a Rel to answer potentially. And
Rel's banned.
Rel's banned. You're right. Yeah, that came out early. So he's played what else? A Nautilus, Braum. I feel like tanky things are what Reina has performed best on. And my bigger question is, what is Marble going to pick up here? Because you've got an Azir, you've got a Gnar. Neither of them are necessarily the strongest of early games. So do we see an early game pickup like the Kai'Sa, like the Tristana, or do we just see, that fall back to skilling the Aphelios Jinx that was the LJL spring staple?
I feel like the Lucian Nami is still hovering over this situation right now. Although that makes some sense.
Yeah.
Zeri is gonna get locked in and still has potential to pop off with that. Throw Rakan for a bit of engage, and there you go. It's not quite as aggressive as the bot lane as I was suggesting, but this is still gonna bring some beats.
Yeah, and with this draft coming through from the Hawks already for them, I feel like they're just kind of going to sit back and go for that skilling here. Burning Core's jungle. They're going with the Trundle into a Lee Sin here. That's an interesting pickup. I mean, strong dueling potential, and I don't hate it. When we look at the Silas and the GP already picked up for Burning Core, jungle pressure is probably going to decide a lot of how these solo lanes go. It's not going to be as much about the 1v1 early. It's more about the 2v2. So picking something that can win out on duels is going to be critical for the Burning Cores. And frankly, Formal, I'm actually pretty happy with Burning Core's draft here. I think they got everything they wanted. They got everything I would have wanted for them.
Yeah, no, Burning Core definitely have the more conventional team composition, I feel like, of the two. And whether or not that has you excited or concerned that the Hawks are bringing out something different, I'll leave that to your own discretion right now. I definitely like that bot lane coming from Burning Core. I think it suits them very, very well. And I think that is going to be, in my eyes, where we could be seeing Burning Core eventually get that later game advantage. And I just keep going back to Blank and how much can this Lee Sin actually pull off, especially against Flawless's Trundle, who should be looking to go toe-to-toe through that early game. That, in my eyes, as well as that bot lane, are going to be the two key sort of focal points.
Yeah, and the fact that mobility that Lee Sin has is somewhat handicapped against the Trundle. Yes, you still have it, especially when there's a lot of terrain to dash over. But if you don't have a lot of terrain, Trundle can actually run down a Lee Sin, with that pillar, with the speed up that he has as well. I'm personally the most worried about the top side here, Formal, because we've seen Rayfarki on GP. It's probably his best carry at this point since we haven't seen his Darius just yet. And I feel like he's picked it into Gnar. He's very comfortable with the GP Gnar matchup. And that's why I had such big question marks around seeing a blue 2 pickup on that Gnar blind Formula 1 with the Azir blind pick as well. Dice gets his signature Silas. Burning Core have so many champions they're super comfortable on, which answer well into what has been drafted by the Hawks.
Yeah, it's confusing. It really is to see the double blind solo lane pick coming from the Hawks. And I feel like their drafts actually have been sort of a minor problem area from this team so far this season. It hasn't been ideal from them. And this could turn into another example of that moving forward, unless, they have something planned out and they feel like, yeah, the answer that we've been looking for actually is Azir mid. Like, that's what we're going to be. That's the secret tech, and now is the time to bring it out, because a win here, again, just to further emphasize, pretty much cements this team, whoever it happens to be, as the third best team right now in the LJL. And that's not a bad place to be. Granted, if we're going to tier list everything, it still feels a tier below our top two, but yeah, you do want to be in third place.
Hey man, the third place still gets bronze, right? So you take that if you want it. And like Jerry kind of mentioned, normally we'd be expecting these two teams to be scrapping for fourth. And in a way they are. Loser does, sit at fourth potentially. But there's an opportunity here since Roscoe Jesters has, been Roscoe Jesters for that first round robin formal. So I'm sure they'll definitely be showing their stuff. Now, I'm going to go back to the Azir a little bit because it's interesting as well, that you're saying maybe Azir is what they need. Because there's only one region as of the beginning of this week that actually has a greater than 50% win rate on Azir. And it is the LCK. No other region has it here. And LJL might be close to LCK. We might have a very similar meta to them. But I'm not sold that blind making Azir like this is how you get to that 50+% win rate.
Yeah, I'm happy to be proven wrong. Like, I'm happy to see this is the answer. Like, this is what the Hawks need to sort of progress right now, because this is pretty must win. Like, yes, they're that number 3 team, but they haven't had like that big quality win. I would argue, except for maybe, I don't know. It just hasn't been there. I'm trying to think of the example, and I'm just drawing up blanks right now because it seems like they win the games
They
they're supposed
haven't,
to,
yeah.
but they've also been losing the games they're supposed to, and quite dramatically as well. They need this win to cement themselves, I think, a little bit more. Burning Core, you always feel like can bounce back, but for the Hawks, like people still are questioning whether or not this team, I think, is for real. And this is the matchup where that they can prove yes, they are.
Yeah, in fact, I'd argue that probably one of Hawks' most decisive wins thus far was against Burning Core on day
Yeah.
2. But Burning Core, on the other hand, they win hard, but they lose hard as well. One thing about being a Burning Core fan is that you know you're always in for a game, one way or another. So saying that, oh, our best win has been against Burning Core, to me, doesn't really say too much. If you can say that, oh, our best wins have been against Burning Core 3 times in a row at the end of the season, that's a whole different game. Because I think Burning Core, especially, kind of like gatekeepers a little bit this split here. They've not been the cleanest team. I've said this before. They've got really good individual mechanics. And so if you want to make a real run at the playoffs here, for playoff contention, then I think you've got to beat Burning Core. And Hawks did it once. But that was day 2, and I think day 2 things were settled. Huge thing to note as well is day 2, Yuhi was still playing support. So now that Yuki's gone back to AD carry and been doing great in that role, much better than spring as well, I might add, I think this is a very different game that we have, and this is probably a much more accurate gauge of these teams.
You know what I find interesting? Last split, and even at the end of last year, I would have made the argument that the Hawks were sort of that benchmark team. And now it's kind of shifted to Burning Core, but I also feel like with the Burning Core victory, it kind of shifts back to the Hawks. I think it's just sort of what happens when you sort of sit in that 4th place area. You become the benchmark team that you try to beat.
Fair enough. I mean, the Hawks were the benchmark team for most of spring. I remember being very high on this roster initially. And then
same. I think everyone was, and then it was just kind of like, oh. But who knows? This could be, the roster starting to come to fruition. Again, cementing themselves as that number 3 team. Might not be, the top 2 that some of us were predicting them at, but it still is a step closer to it than where they were just, a couple months ago.
Fair enough, right? You take what you can get. And hey, it's progress. And maybe this split, they do this. A Hawks-Knicks split might be even better yet. Who knows? We'll see. For now, though, we should note that both junglers have started on the bot side of the map here. And Flawless actually outpacing a little bit since Blank went for the full clear with those Krugs. And I'm curious to see if that actually pans out in terms of top side pressure as well, because we did touch on the fact that Ray Farkey is an absolutely massive carry, and he got the counter matchup in this case as well.
Yeah, I mean, Ray Farkey on this game plan, we didn't talk about too much during picks and bans, but I think it is something that's going to make itself very known, especially if this game does start to draw out a little bit longer. That's where I feel we'll really see this Gangplank shine. With that winning matchup, you should expect to see it accelerate. And it's kind of why, if you're the Hawks, you really need to make sure that that bot lane and maybe even that mid lane as well just have to go your way, because I just don't see a world right now where Ray Farkey actually struggles in this matchup unless, they're left on like a complete island and Blank spent all that time up there almost acting as a second support. At the moment, though, it does look like it's a full clear from Ray Farkey. Blank, though, is going to steal away that top side Scuttlebug.
Yeah, and Ray Farkey should be safe. I mean, the wards came out. They know it was there when the Scryer's Bloom spotted them for Hawks, and the fact they didn't clear it does mean that Ray Farkey probably gets his island. So the big question now is, where does Blank go? And Blank has the highest kill participation. That was one of the stats we saw, 80+% in the game, in all of the LJL right now. But I feel like a lot of it hasn't necessarily been coming in the laning phase. Blank's highlight moments have been coming in the mid to late game when he engages 4 team fights here. So when you pick a Lee Sin, you do need to start getting those early ganks off. And where is Blank going to go? Mid lane is shoved really hard right now. I don't know if it's going to bounce anytime soon. Bot side, kind of equal here, but I expect to see some words coming out. There we go from Yuhi and Loser.
Yeah, you don't want to ever force plays right now, and that's why I'm kind of thinking, lanes are starting to push in. Maybe that's where you look for the invades, but then you're against this Trundle and Flawless, and that's not always the safest direction to go either. So it's definitely going to be challenging Blank in this matchup. But that's sort of the chess battle that we were hoping to see between these two junglers. And again, it goes back to the idea that Blank so important for the Hawks. And it's why I love those targeted bans and the fact that they continued sort of through this pick and ban phase, that Blank is in a very awkward position if he's going to be that carry once more. It's why I really enjoyed the Burning Core draft.
Fair enough. And Formula 1 does not simply invade a Trundle here. If anything, Trundle invades you. So yeah, Black doesn't really have that option. For now, though, Dash are doing an amazing job in this mid
Mm.
lane against Dice here. We do expect the Azir to win out early because he's ranged, but Dasher is abusing Dice. And we're already seeing a significant CS difference start to build up. Yes, it's only 4 right now, but the lane's not in a favorable state for Dice here. And I feel like Flawless needs to go and relieve Dice soon enough.
Yeah, but that is when you can see Blank then be able to have a bit more, sort of map presence as soon as Dice is going to be bailed out. And you can even see with sort of the pathing back out, Yuhi even having a little peek at that mid lane just in case, they might be needed right now. Dasher doing a fantastic job in drawing the eyes of Burning Core towards that mid lane. The question is, what will the Hawks then do with it?
Nothing. Unfortunately, I don't think.
Not yet.
There's no real pressure to match just yet. There's no Herald, for example. Dragon is up and available potentially, but the base from Marble and Rhino meant that there wasn't a lot of pressure. Grade 6.
Santa Shurima get dropped. Dice actually forced to burn that flash, and that's going to be more pressure now in that mid lane.
To be honest, I actually expected the return Shurima shuffle from Dice there, but did not actually hijack the Emperor's Divide, so wasn't able to push Blank and Dash away, had to expend the flash instead. And now Dice is vulnerable, and Lee Sin's really good at dives as well when you're low on health. So Blank could always just sit around, look for that regank if he wants. Instead, has gone back to his jungle farming. And if anything, I expect to see Dice just reset, TP right back into that mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, that has to be the play for Dice, but without that flash available, again, it means that there's going to be more pressure, I feel, on that mid lane and more eyes towards it. And this is where I want to see Blank start to maybe put some pressure on those side lanes or start looking towards that dragon. The point is, you're having control over the middle of the map right now. You have an aggressive jungler in Lee Sin. This is when I would want to see that kind of put into use. And I know invading against a Trundle is sort of a sketchy sort of play, but if you know the Trundle's always going to be hovering around that mid lane, it gives you more earnest to sort of take a few more risks.
Yeah, and if anything, actually, I think you could afford to try and go for that 2v2, especially if Dasher can get Dice that low in the 1v1 again here. 2 is better than 1 in terms of kills, right? You take those as that least. And for now, though, we do see Blank, kind of still hovering, trying to decide where you want to go. Do you want to go mid or do you want to go bot here? And bot side has pretty solid ward situation from Yuhi and Loser. I feel like if you want to gank that lane, you kind of got to gank it soon because we're going to see that the 6s hit soon. And once Devour comes up for Loser, it's so much harder to try and punish that bot side.
Yeah, I mean, we really haven't seen too much action down on that bot side because I think Loser has been doing a fantastic job just keeping the vision under control there. Every time I look down below, there'd be multiple sort of red dots in that river, in the tri-bush as well. There just hasn't been an avenue for Blink to kind of get through that bot side undetected, at least not yet. And I think that's one of the reasons why we haven't seen too much of that dragon pressure just yet. But realistically, we haven't seen too much pressure from either team so far at this stage of the game. A very passive affair, especially considering what we saw in game number 1 this evening.
I'm going to be honest, I was a little disappointed. The Hawks have the second highest goal difference at 15 of all teams, and Burning Core is the third highest. So I was expecting to see these guys have early action. Burning Core especially has the highest first blood rate, 75% first blood. So if anybody's going to cause something to happen, you know what? My money's on Burning Core right now.
I mean, between these two teams, yes, I still go back to Axis as the team to kind of just force something to happen early, which we did see, might I add, but not necessarily a good thing. Either way, Dice now has the ability to drop a Gnar as Flawless is going to flash in, steal away the Herald, but that is going to prompt the fight. First blood does go to Flawless. Dice gets a re-engage onto Blank, and the Hawks just look limp in this exchange. Ray Farkey and Flawless should be able to chase Dasher to flash over the wall. Terrible fight for the team in blue.
Okay, there we go. There's the action we were waiting for, Formal. And first blood once again to Burning Core there. Yeah, definitely a lot of questions I have unanswered after watching that particular series of play there. We had said that Dasher Blank might be able to win the 2v2, but it relies very heavily on Dasher getting initial poke down, and they're not. Everybody's coming in full health to this particular fight here. I'm not even sure if Kanatsu managed to shop before this particular fight here. And because we are seeing Hawks be the one to tank up the Herald here, they're in a rougher position. Considering Kanatsu's in Mega Form, he's incredibly squishy here. So not only do they end up losing the Herald off of Flawless going flashing into the middle of the enemy team, but then they just lose 2 kills after that. Everything's backfiring. And now it's Burning Core's game to win when I already think they have a better drop. They're in perfect position for the rest of this game.
Yeah, that was a fantastic fight for Burning Core. They got themselves the Herald as well as those 2 kills. First blood over to Flawless, who should be able to sort of continue and snowball, you would hope, through in the jungle. And not to mention Ray Farkey, who kind of needed that kill. I feel like that top lane going a bit more even than you'd expect in the Gangplank versus Gnar matchup now. Should hopefully be looking to accelerate it a fair bit, has that sheen, so trades will be going the Gangplank's way. Dragon hasn't been started yet. We're over 10 minutes in, and finally Burning Core is going to take a look. Hawks, though, they are in position to potentially respond.
I don't know if Burning Core need to be so scared for Hawks. I feel like in equal numbers at this point, they're still fine, but they're playing respectfully. And I don't think the win con for Burning Hawks is dragon stacking anymore, or well, ever has been dragon stacking. So
Yeah.
they're okay, kind of giving that up. I do want to kind of touch on that top side a little bit because for GP Gnar, the way that matchup goes is Gnar actually is supposed to win out a earlier on, just because you are ranged into GP, and so GP has to burn mana to try and match your range advantage. If you're even, come that 15-minute mark, you're winning as GP here. So it feels like a win harder moment when you get the kill and the assist on Ray Farkey. That's it. Kanatsu has somehow found an advantage in CS since that fight happened. At that Herald fight, they were pretty much dead even here. And now he's up almost, 15 CS here? Let's call it 12 because there's some minions to be claimed by Ray Farkey.
I think that has to do a little bit with the jungle positioning, whereas Ray Farkey has been a bit more aggressive whenever Flawless has been on the top side of the map. But for the past, couple waves, we've seen Flawless down here on that bot side sort of prepping this dragon that still isn't going to get started. So a bit of a dragon dance, and eventually it gets left alone after the vision is cleared. Burning Core not willing to fight there.
Ooh.
Oh, Emperor's Defy didn't really work out that time for Dasher. He is going to be able to shuffle their way to safety, but that was a key ultimate blown.
Yeah, I need a replay on that because I think Dice just abducted through it to kind of deny away that knockback. And if that's the case, that's really well played from Dice. I mean, we know Dice is probably one of the premier Silas players here in the LJL, and it's mechanics like that kind of shows why.
Ooh, Blank gets behind Ray Farkey, and all of a sudden this Gangplank in a bit of trouble. Nard into the wall will go down, and that's going to be a kill much, much needed for Blank at this stage. Response, though, Rift Herald dropped in the mid lane, a lot of plating, and a dragon as well going Burning Core's way.
Yeah, Kanatsu has TP if the Hawks want to try and contest this, but no, they're just going for the plates on that bot side instead. Really well played from Burning Core to kind of salvage that situation. And I think they were paying a lot of respect to Blank on that dragon play there. The moment Blank showed up top lane, sure, Ray Farkey was dead, but you could see Burning Core immediately were just like, okay, guys, just do dragon. We should have done dragon before already.
Yeah, it's interesting because normally you see sort of the top lane play in response to the team taking the dragon, not the dragon play in response to a team taking the top lane, especially when it comes to that first dragon. Yet here we are right now as Marble has to be a little bit careful. Is going to be able to sort of jump to safety right now. More farm going to be going to the Starving Senna lane. Again, you'd sort of expect Marble to kind of have the CS advantage, at least through that early and mid game down in the bot side, but neither bot lane has been that effective so far in this game. They've kind of just been, keeping the peace, shaking hands, and farming away down below.
Out of all the LJL bot lanes here for me, I feel like Marble, Rhina, and Yuhi Loser are not generally considered the big carries in general. That said, I think Yuhi's been doing a lot better here, and Marble in this game will have to do a lot better because when I'm looking at Hawk scaling right here, you've got Zeri, you've got Azir. Kanatsu's not going to be the big lady in carry, neither is Blank. So for Marble right now, quiet early game, that's fine. You've got the Zeri, you'll scale up, and then mid to late game, that's when I'm really going to be watching Marble and judging on his mechanics and performance there.
Yeah, I mean, Marble, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but I'm pretty sure Marble has like the lowest kill participation and just like lowest kills in general out of all the bot laners right now in the LJL.
I'd have to double check that production if you want to check that. I mean, league-wise, they've been okay statistically, but
I could be wrong
carries,
on that. Don't quote me on that one, but I'm pretty sure that was the case at least like a week ago. Either way, Loser just walked into the wrong side of town, and that's going to be a pretty easy kill picked up for the Hawks. As engaged with Dice, makes contact, Marble avoids the snare.
Okay, I was gonna say about that bot side. You say that's the wrong side of town, but that's Loser's side of the map.
That mid lane continuing to put pressure down below. Hawks gonna roam up more towards that top side, I should say. Dasher will go ahead and collect that bot side tower as the Herald does get started up upon. And you can see Burning Core, again, with a lot of the focus on that bot side of the map, should be able to pick up this Herald for free.
Yeah, Hawks answering back with that turret, though, on the bot side. It's actually the first turret of the game here. So for the Hawks, you know what? It's an interesting sort of debate whether it's better to go for Herald or not. I would always argue that taking a turret is better than taking the Herald because you take the Herald in order to take turrets, normally speaking here. So I think Hawks actually going to be happy with that trade. Still kind of ahead of the curve for now, and it feels like that early advantage that Burning Core has built up here, Formal, starting to stall out a little bit.
Yeah, it's starting to slow down, and I don't think it's the worst case scenario again for Burning Core. I'm looking at that bot lane. I'm looking at Ray Farkey in the top lane and how they need a bit of time to really get going until they hit that full strength. However, the fact that they had a lead and they've kind of let it slip away, it's always going to be a little bit disconcerting, but we are sort of hitting that stage of the game where the Hawks really should be at their strength, like at their strongest. And at this stage, I kind of feel like it's up to the Hawks to really take control of the game, which to their credit, we are seeing. Bot tower went down, rotate that pressure up to the top side. That's where Blank shows up. That top tower is going to go down as well. This should be the Hawks now trying to get and hold this advantage for as long as possible.
Yeah, exactly. They're speeding up the pace of the game here. As soon as the mythics start to come through, you're talking about GP starting to come online. Well, they go and punish that here. Now, Burning Core are able to break the mid outer, which is debatably more valuable here. Kanatsu about to walk into Flawless.
Oh boy. Well, remember before when we saw Loser walk to the wrong bush? Well, this time we're going to see Kanatsu do something similar. Dice on that hunt is going to flash for it. Nars the Gnar into the wall, and that will be enough to secure the kill.
Yeah, unfortunately, Kanatsu just not able to land the skill shots necessary to keep them off of that. And now suddenly Hawks, who wanted to play that good tempo game, you know, they move up to that top side a minute and a half, 2 minutes before you get that pressure. Ideally, then you kind of rotate to that bot side. Burning Core has to answer top. All of that gets disrupted because of that kill onto Kanatsu. And now they have to be careful in going into your own jungle at this bot half the map because there's a numbers advantage for Burning Core, and Burning Core gets to set up vision instead, gets to be first one to this dragon.
That said, though, I have to kind of point out what Dasher has been able to do on the top side. Hold the thought, though, because Blank and Reyna may have walked into another awkward bush. This time, though, they're able to escape. But yeah, look at the top side right now. Dasher actually doing a very good job in bullying Ray Farkey up in the sideline.
Yeah, both of them, you know, they have the TPs. They're ready to join the rest of the team here. And for Ray Farkey, you don't have to win just yet, right? You just kind of need to hold. And I think that's he's doing that just fine here. So despite the pressure Dasher's getting down, Burning Core aren't too worried about that top side. And sure enough, Burning Core, there goes that dragon. There's that pressure they put down on that bot side early. And now the question's on the Hawks here, right? Like, what are you going to do when you messed up that particular setup here? Are you able to find anything? The wave states aren't great, and I would have ideally liked to see Hawks try and push on that top side with the numbers advantage, right? The moment you give up that dragon, you just need to rotate top. Instead, they can't find anything, and we're still at that equilibrium point, Formal. Neither team really bursting forward to a winning position.
It's interesting to me, though, because it looked like the Hawks were a bit indecisive, despite the fact that Dasher had done such a good job of getting that top lane shoved in. I feel like there's a world where they would have been able to trade that tier 2 on the top side for that dragon just because of how dominant it looked like Dasher was kind of handling that lane. But instead, they give up the dragon. They don't really get anything in return on the opposite side of the map because they're kind of meandering around getting vision deep in their own jungle. And now we're in that situation where maybe the Hawks missed out on a little bit of an opportunity.
Yeah, definitely with you on that one. And there's no objectives to fight over for the next little while. Baron coming up in a minute. I'm not going to count that because I don't think either team is really has the composition or the damage to burst it down. So I think for the next little while, it's just going to be about lane states here, Formal, about pushing. And what we've seen so far, I'm not sold that that's going to mean action or anything actionable for the next immediate future here.
Yeah, I'm look, there's a part of me that's worried right now, okay? Nothing to fight for, let's fight. I feel like that almost did happen on that top side. I feel like it still might. Sometimes LJL gets a little bit wacky, right? So hopefully these teams, though, can just keep these lane states, you know, as stable as possible. Maybe get one in your advantage. Again, with those warp gates in place, it's very easy for people to get back into the lane, not really miss out on many waves at all. So more incentive to keep things straight, or
flag?
we're going to get a pick play onto Blank, who's just going to jump out to safety, and Burning Core, fortunately, you do not overextend.
Okay, I said this earlier, but with Lee Sin versus Trundle, Lee Sin needs to hug walls, basically. If there's a wall, Lee Sin's mobile. If there's no wall, he gets run down. Blank got incredibly lucky. There was a very, very thick wall there because he should have died otherwise. You know what? And I'm happy for Burning Core. They made action happen. It didn't result in a kill formal, but it's more action than I was expecting for the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty safe setup as well, just with the control that they had in the mid lane. They just had to look down and say, hey, if Blank happens to go this way, you know, we might be able to make something happen. It doesn't happen straight away in the way that they would like. They're able to back away, play it safe, and now the Hawks are actually looking for a little bit of revenge. Ray Farkey, I think, may have sussed it out. Doesn't matter. Quickening was used. Ray Farkey will burn Flash almost immediately after eating the orange.
TPs?
Teleport's now coming in. We're fighting with no objectives. It's happening as they will go down one apiece. All of a sudden, Kinatsu is going to try to run away. Flawless in that front line. Avoids the Shurima shuffle. Dice did get caught up in it, but now Flawless can re-engage, but just immediately gets eaten. Has to flash out. Dasher left alone with Dice will fall as well, just in time for Yuhi and Loser to arrive. But the damage has already been done. The Hawks, they got decimated once again.
Yo, did someone order an Uber? Because Dasher just delivered and not in a good way. Kinatsu kind of got killed by that by the Emperor's Divide because it kind of gap closed for Burning Core there. And I don't know why formal that particular series of events happened. Did it have to happen? No, but it did, and I'm glad for it here. It's sort of the play and counterplay, right? It's Hawks looking to try and find a catch onto Burning Core. Burning Core don't know that the numbers the advantage is hidden from them, and they force this play. It looks good initially, but the problem is that Ray Farkey is tanky enough that they don't get the kill. And not only that, but even in this 2v3, Ray Farkey actually finds the first kill onto Rhina. And the moment that happens, you kind of know that, well, Hawks aren't in a good position here anymore. Your initial burst kind of didn't come through. And then, yeah, there you go. That's Dasher just delivering Dice into the back line. It's kind of brutal to watch. And from here on out, I'm just worried because it feels like Blank's past his best buy date on this Lee Sin. He doesn't have enough damage to kill people. Even with insects here, you need both Dasher and Marble there to actually be effective for that delivery.
I'm still trying to figure out what the Hawks get if they win that fight. Like, that's where my brain's at right now, as we see another Emperor's Divide onto Ray Farkey, who's able to drop the barrels over the wall and start getting some autos through. Doesn't matter. Dasher's going to win that trade before Dice arrives to the scene to make that a 1-for-1. Baron has a little peek at it, but more importantly, so does that portal to try and block away any of Blank's escapes. Oh, the timing. Absolutely perfect. Flawless goes over. So too does Blank. And, well, Baron not going to be started just yet.
Yeah, trading top for mid, that's an equivalent trade. Neither team comfortable with it here. Kinatsu is still pushing bot side, and you need to push harder if you're Kinatsu right now. You need to take advantage of this because Burning Core are grouped up. They're going to have inside track in the mid lane. They're going to have inside track on this dragon here. And Kinatsu actually mega right now, so Hawks can't even contest this. This is potential soul point.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't really see the Hawks throwing it away right now because, there's objectives to play for, so the Hawks won't be forcing any fights this time around as Burning Core does lock it in. Dice, though, is going to walk right into Kinatsu, and with Loser there, gets the slow, nice little snare over the wall, but no follow-up this time. Burning Core playing really, really patiently.
I'm laughing so hard right now, Formal, because I find Hawks is playing the better macro game. If you look at wave states, especially on the side lanes, Hawks are pushed up almost constantly here, right? The bot side, Kinatsu was pushing that. Top side, the massive wave from Dasher. Even though Dasher did die, Dice didn't actually really trim that wave or anything, so that was pushed up. But then when it comes to sort of the micro decision-making or the actual theater of war, so many questions, right? Like Kinatsu walking into a push. They were at Dragon.
Yeah.
As a team, you collectively made the call. Hey, guys, we aren't going to fight this. And Kinatsu's just like, okay, guys, got it. I'm just going to take a walk. What? He's so lucky he didn't die there.
Yeah, I thought for sure that was going to be an easy pickup for Burning Core. And Hawks should be a little bit grateful. Losing Kinatsu there could have been the Baron. It could have been a rough time moving forwards. Instead, however, the game, once again, the pace of it slowing down a little bit at this stage. Both teams just kind of playing that vision game, trying to find their opportunities. And Burning Core thinks they might see one on that top side right now. Dasher is going to try to get that last piece of farm, and in the end, Flawless decides to back away.
Yeah, he still has his outer turret, so it's not that dangerous. Flash about to come back up for Dasher. And now in 5 minutes time here, Formal, there's no more waiting around anymore, because at that point, Burning Core have potential Hextech Soul, and Hextech Soul is still the highest win rate soul of all souls. It allows you to gap close, to catch up to people, and Baron will be on the table. So at that point, Hawks have to fight. You cannot be giving those up for free anymore.
Yeah, we'll see if they're going to go ahead, though, and again, almost get caught out beforehand. Dice just clearing that vision. Has to be mindful of this bush right now and doesn't step towards it. Actually walks away to clear out more vision. Blink and Dasher waiting, hoping Dice goes down below. Does not this time around, so that will cause the Hawks to slowly advance forward. Now they're going to be the team walking into vision right here, and no fight to be had. Either team recognizing that, hey, losing right now, probably not worth forcing anything. Or they're going to go, oh, well, there's a board there.
No, just vision for now. I mean, the indicator to watch is Marble. Marble and Dasher both need to be present for Hawks to actually try and do this. Now, Formal, production has done us a favor, and they have pulled up kill participation for Marble, 78.8%. So
Okay, so it's high.
Actually doing pretty decently so far. Not this game though. 0-0-0 has not had any kill participation thus far.
Yeah, not every game can be perfect, and I think I may have gotten Marble confused with another player. So my apologies to Marble and all of Marble's fans out there. I didn't mean to flame recklessly, but within the context of this game, dreadful kill
It's fair.
participation. And in which case, I am lighting the oven right now to continue to grill. As it stands, more death bushes being set up, more patient gameplay. Burning Core, they walked into one in the past. This time, though, multiple members, and it's not Loser who's leading the charge. And yeah, they're just going to stay in their own jungle. Don't need to risk vision if they don't know where the enemies are, and it's all good in the hood.
2 more minutes. As a Burning Core fan, Echo KO must be so happy right now. This is not how Burning Core generally plays. This has probably been the most measured I think we've seen Burning Core all split long. Like we said, they either win hard or lose hard. This is kind of neither. 27 minutes in almost right now, and Burning Core have not been playing recklessly. And we've touched on their skilling before, right? They've got 3 skilling lanes. Senna skills infinitely, technically. Silas skills pretty well. Azir probably outskills the Silas a little bit, but we've seen Dice play this champion. He's really good at finding access to the backlines. And Ray Farkey's GP. This one's terrifying. Trinity Force completed. Collector completed. And what I'm going to assume is probably going to be a Lord Doms soon to come through. And once that gets completed here, well, we've seen Ray Farkey barrel chains before. I don't see a tank on the side of Hawks, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see, double, triples just popping up from barrels alone.
Yeah, I actually am getting very concerned because I'm watching at the moment Ray Farkey backing, and I want to see if this item has been completed because the components are already there. Can you piece it together? Yes, you can. This fight for the next dragon now is going to have an online Ray Farkey, a online Dice. The Hawks, yeah, again, they're just sort of in that awkward spot right now where I haven't seen enough from them to tell me, yeah, they can sort of out micro and win a team fight. As teleports are coming through this mid lane, are we going to fight before the dragon even spawns? Thinking about it, everyone wants to get involved. Flawless steps forward, but doesn't go in.
Raina already chunked as well here, and that outer turret for Burning Core right now is doing so much work because it's so much shorter for them. They're so much safer to just back out. Hawks, though, they're into the river first. They're getting good vision control here, and they're trying to block out Kanatsu almost mega.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Kanatsu was never able to back, right? Kanatsu wasn't able to refresh the items and kind of upgrade themselves, whereas Ray Farkey was. So if we're going to be looking at, like, gold on the map right now, you feel like, yeah, the Hawks, they weren't able to reset. Burning Core was. Burning Core should have the item advantage. They should have the damage advantage, and you would think they would have the advantage in this fight. Dragon does get started up by Flawless, who is taken quite low. Yuhi will be able to heal them back up somewhat as Loser and Ray Farkey continue to zone at the pit. Meanwhile, down below, Dice and Kanatsu sees Dice go over the wall, but doesn't connect on the hook, so we don't see a cheeky little engage play. Instead, we see a dragon taken down to half. Okay, here comes Kanatsu. Here goes Flawless into the pit. Dice on the tail end as well. Keeps the dragon somewhat moving forward as Reyna's going in super deep. Tries to get the quickening onto Flawless and Dice, which forces Dice to go golden before re-engaging. Kanatsu has to flash out. Dice will follow in the pit, though. Blake and Flawless go after it, and Blake is able to steal it away. Ray Farkey goes way too deep, however, and will be the first to go down. Loser is next. This fight's going all Hawks as Reyna goes golden to barely stay alive. Flawless down below, trying to find a way back in. Won't be able to get there. In fact, now needs to run for their life because they are the last man standing. And despite that pillar of filth, they will be run down. It is an ace for the Hawks.
Call it a black Formal and wipe the slate clean because the Hawks have managed to come right back into it. That is critical. And not only do they stop Soul, They get Baron to boot as well. And with the amount of standing turrets here, this is a chance for Hawks to really blow this game open. And I hope we get a replay on that fight because the patience from both of those teams was massive. I think a lot of it comes down to the Zeri pick from Marble here. Thank you, LJL. We ask and they deliver. So the setup to this was already really, really patient. And Burning Core actually played this fight pretty well initially. The problem is they have a lot of burst damage. The cannon barrage comes down to separate the team, and Kinatsu and Blank actually find themselves, or Rhina actually find themselves separated from everybody else because Cannon Barrage right now is keeping Dash and Marble and Blank out. And this is when Burning Core probably should have made the call that, hey guys, burn down the soul. Even if we lose the fight, it's fine. We get the soul. But they got kind of fixated on it. And by the time the Cannon Barrage ends, Dragon is still up. It allows the Hawks to come in. And the steal was just icing on the cake from Blank there. After that, you can just see Marble pumping out so much damage, stealing shields from both the Senna and the Tahm Kench. And after that, it's just a wipe.
Yeah, and that was a wipe that I feel like the Hawks desperately needed right now. That said, Ray Farkey could be in a bit of trouble. Daiso's going to find that re-engage. Barrels being laid for the chain. Here comes Snar, gets them both as the Hawks compiling in the Emperor's Divide. Not going to save Dice this time around. And with another 2 picks, the Hawks, they have the Baron. They have the numbers advantage. They can start looking to break this base almost nearly.
Yeah, they definitely can look to push in here. I mean, those were the 2 big carries, the solo lanes of Burning Core that just got caught out. And Yuki doesn't have enough damage to effectively wave clear right now. You're sitting on just an Eclipse. Marble going in with Dasher here.
All right, Marble's feeling good right now. That's all I can say right there, RC. I'm like, Marble wants to get in, wants to try and end this game, and I mean, why not? Death timer's still 15-20 seconds at this stage. The Hawks, they can get inhibitors. They might even find a second just because Shinatsu was doing work in the mid lane. And for a team of Burning Core who had been in control this entire game, one Aaron team fight, and it all comes down like the house of cards it was.
Oh man, I feel bad for Echo. We were just saying Echo was probably feeling happy for Burning Core here. What was I thinking? Of course, you're a Burning Core fan. You've got to suffer in some way. And here's the replay of how that fight started. Pretty much, it's just Ray Farkey, I think, overextended right now. You have no business being this far up, and Dice trying to save your ally. I respect the call as a teammate, but strategically, it's not what you want. You end up sacrificing 2 instead of 1.
Yeah, that 2-man Gnar was big out of Kinatsu right there, and unfortunately for Burning Core, look, I'm starting to understand now how the Burning Core fans must feel, why the mental is shattered in situations like this, because everything can be going so well in just one moment, and again, it's a team that feels like they're, just unable to really get that consistency. Usually it's in between games they're looking really good or really bad, but this has just been within this game itself. Sometimes they look really good and really bad, and I'm not sure if that's better or worse. What I do know, however, is here come the Hawks, still with Baron empowered minions, knocking through that top side. They're going to get their 3rd and final inhibitor, and now Burning Core, this has got to be their stand. They cannot let this siege last too long. However, Flawless is already taken down quite low, and as soon as Flawless goes to reset, that could be the opening the Hawks need. Keep your eyes on the engage tools right now. Dice does have Gnar and can use it.
Supers coming in as well in about maybe 15-20 seconds here. The double supers will be coming in. So for Burning Core, they got to make a stand, but they're fast running out of legs to make it work.
Ooh, Dice almost caught out right there. Blank thinking about trying to make the play. Kanatsu on the other end, though, kind of left alone with you. He actually is taken quite low, is able to jump back, but that was a good chunk of damage done to the health. Meanwhile, Supers in the base, starting to get ever closer to that lower Nexus tower. Look at just the 2 autos from Marble and what it does. Nat will take down the first Nexus tower as the siege continues along. Flawless looking for the engage. Pillar of Filth used, sidestepping a bit of damage, gets a snare on Kanatsu, but it's not going to be enough to warrant an all-in. Not just yet. That burst, though, might, as now Burning Core looks to chase the Hawks out of the base.
Oh my goodness, the Dragon's Rage already used here. They don't have enough disengage, but double supers are in the base, and Burning Core need to turn back. You can't keep chasing right here. The other Nexus turret almost dropped.
It's going to be all right. It looks like they were able to get back just in time, yet here is a new problem. That next Dragon, unfortunately for Burning Core, they cannot afford to contest it, so again, they're going to be denied that Dragon Soul. I'll give them a little bit of an excuse, though. They do only have 1 structure standing outside of that Nexus.
Yeah, they got bigger fish right now. And to be fair, that's only Hawk's 2nd Dragon here. So Burning Core really don't care about the Dragon. They have staved off disaster formal, and they are still in the game. I hesitate to say they're in it to win it, but they're still in it somehow here. And Hawks here, they get to go back. They get to spend their gold. It's not quite a 10k gold lead. And Burning Core, you know what? We've already seen Ray Farkey. That was one barrel which chunked and forced out multiple members. So Burning Core still have an avenue. It's called Ray Farkey.
Yeah, I think Ray Farkey has to be the focal point for the Hawks. They need to make sure that that barrel chain does not happen, and they should and then win any sort of ensuing fight. As it stands right now, they survived the first siege. Can they survive the second? No Baron buff this time, but a lot more super minions in the base. Blank trying to find a way and has that ward. Is going to go for it. Gets the Dragon's kick straight into Kanatsu, but it doesn't really find any kills that they need. The Emperor's Divide, however, completely breaks Burning Core into pieces, and that's going to do it for this game. The Hawks, they win with a flurry of momentum straight through the mid-game till the end.
My head foremost said Hawks. My heart said Burning Core, and this is why it was so split. It was such a close game. Well, it was close until it wasn't. It felt like just one Baron kind of ended everything.
Yeah, one Baron, I even go back to that one Dragon fight, really was what ended this game. The Hawks they needed a home run because it felt like the game was slipping away from them, and they came through in a big ways. And it might not have been the big Blank carry performance that we've, historically seen in the past, but that Dragon Steal prevented the Dragon Soul. They got the ace. They get the game. Look, we're going to throw it to a quick break right now. When we come back, though, we'll break that game down in more detail so we can really say, hey, Blank was great, but it wasn't just the Blank show.
We are back, and Burning Core, they start to bring the heat, but it did start to fizzle out a little bit. The Hawks came through, they threw that gust of wind, and it just fizzled out all of the flames. So I'm not going to lie, Hawks staying on top, but it was a much closer game than when these two teams did last meet. So Burning Core definitely making improvements in their playstyle. Let's get the draft back up on the board. I will say the first one I want to go to is that Silas pick. I feel like this was a really good lock-in for Dice.
But I mean, that's just because Dice is a really good Silas, right? I mean, it was a comfort pick, and you can almost put that in any sort of matchup, and you're still going to see success from them, even in that early game phase, where you have melee versus range, and we saw the harass coming out of Dasher. Dice was still able to find ways to make that Silas relevant. So in my eyes, that came from knowledge of the champion.
Yeah, and part of it, I think, is just also the draft from Hawks. I'm still not sold on just blinding both your solo lanes like that. They just gave free matchups, right? Burning Core, these are matchups where Burning Core had plenty of time to take a look. Silas came in the second round of picks where they went, okay, what do we have? What would fit here? And then they decided. I think the fact that Dice lost as heavily as he did in lane to Dasher speaks volumes of Dasher's performance as well this particular game.
Yeah, and it was going well. It was going so well for them. Burning Core had the lead. They brought themselves up, and they were looking very strong. Where did it all go wrong for Maul?
One bad team fight. One Aaron team fight was what it took right now. And it was that dragon fight, a chance for Dragon Soul, a chance to ice this game. Instead, they get aced. And looking back at the fight, there's a lot of sort of weird moments in that fight as well. I mean, for me, one of the strange ones was actually seeing Dice kind of pop the Zhonya's very prematurely in the pit in and of itself. I think that kind of went underutilized. Because until that point, it was Burning Core's game. I mean, there was some strange fights, some odd commits coming from both teams, but overall, it felt like the macro from Hawks was okay, but not great. Their micro was awful in the team fights up to that point. But then as soon as they had that lead, the Hawks know what to do with it. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why they're now the number 3 team in the league.
Yeah, indeed. And then the Hawks, as you said, closed out, had the lead, took the team, and then just picked up the win. RMC, do you feel like Burning Core could have maybe had a way back into the game? Obviously, there were a few picks left and right, Rayfaki overextending, and then people committing to try and help them. Do you think that those kind of things for Burning Core really didn't get them back into the game? Or was it kind of Hawks have control, they pretty much should be able to close it out?
Well, I think they had opportunities. And like we said, the Rayfarki getting picked and kind of dragging Dice into it, that was when the nail was in the coffin and the game was over at that point. Because you could recover from the Baron. We saw that Rayfarki could stall. But if Rayfarki is dead and they end up losing base turrets, you lose inhibitors because of it, that's when you're facing a death sentence. Because at that point, Hawks can just push in with the supers. And we saw it towards the end as well. The supers were really what made Burning Core unable to do anything, because you can't leave the base. Every time you win a fight, you can't do anything. And for Hawks, they can just always reset. Hex tech means that they can invade your base that much faster as well. Their resets are quicker. So yeah, there was windows of opportunity. But Burning Core, when they failed, it just felt like it became a catastrophic failure and it just got snowballed completely out of control.
Well, overall, I think a better performance from Burning Core. I think they really did light up and show some sparks of potential success, but it's the Hawks that keep themselves solidly in that third spot, winning out a game here. But we're going to be going to a short break. We're going to say goodbye to Formal, and we will be joined by a new play-by-play after the break. So make sure you stay tuned to see what's next.